Even experienced developers look things up all the time. And one of these things that, like me as a developer, I need to look up all the time is how to center things. Because there are a lot of methods and not every method is appropriate for every situation. And then some things don't work in some situation and I end up with a messy CSS where things don't center how I want them to. So today's video is a video that you can use to look up how to center elements in CSS. Okay, to show you how to center things in CSS, I prepared something. I have my index HTML and I have my styles CSS. In the index HTML, I have a container. This is a div that has the class container. In there I have an image. This is this one you see here on the right. And here I have a text with some lorem ipsum, a paragraph that has the class text. The image has the class image. In my style CSS, I prepared these three classes, the container, the image, the text. And in the container, I specified a background color so we can see things better. So now let's see if I can center things. So the first thing I want to do is I want to center this text. How do I do that? So this text, I have my paragraph with the class text. So in here, in my class text, I can specify text align center. I love autocomplete. And you see now my text is centered. The nice thing about text align center is that you can apply it to the parent element and it will center the child elements as well. So let's try this, like putting this not on my paragraph, but on the parent div, on the container div. Let's see what happens. Everything centered, the image as well as the text. Okay, nice. So text align center is the method that works generally well. It works best for text because that's what it was originally meant to do, to center text. You can center other elements as well, like in this case, the image and the text inside the container, but it has its limitations. In this example, if I now want to center the image, but not the text, I would need to do things a little differently, right? So I would need to do something like put it on the image. And as you can see, nothing happens. So you can see in this case, text align center doesn't work for the image only, it works for the text. The text center is fine, but it doesn't work for the image. And that's no wonder because an image doesn't have any content if you want. So let me show you what I mean. In the paragraph, you have content inside the P element. You have an opening and a closing, and inside you have some text. In the image, you don't have any text. You don't even have a closing tag. So there's no content, if you will, in the image tag. On the other hand, the parent div element, it has some content. It has this as the content. So there's something nested inside. The image doesn't have anything nested inside. So this is why text align center doesn't work on the image, but works on the text, and it works on the parent container. But back to our problem. We now want to center the image, but we don't want to center the text, right? So how can we achieve that? We can do that by applying a different method how to center things. So instead of using text align center, we use a little trick. Do you remember margin? With margin, you have quite a lot of different margins you can set. What is interesting for us is margin left and margin right. So margin left, I will set to auto. And margin right, I will also set to auto. And now we need to set one other style so that it works for the image. Images are a little bit special elements. And this is the display style. So we set the display style to block. And now our image is centered and our text is not, just as we wanted. So let me explain what's going on here. We have a margin left of auto and a margin right of auto. So what auto does is it basically takes all the space that is available inside the container. So it takes the element and applies some space to it and says, take as much space as you can inside this. If I would do that only for left, for example, so if I would set right to 0, it would take all the space on the left side. If I set left to 0 and have auto on the right, it takes all the space on the right side. And if you set both to auto, it takes equal space on both sides automatically, and that results in centering. The nice thing about margin is that you have a shortcut how you can write this. So instead of margin left and margin right, you can write margin 0 auto. Let me explain what this does. So the first number is the space that you want to set on top and bottom. And the second one is the space that you want to set left and right. So this results in I have no space on top and bottom, but I have equal space left and right, which is the same as writing. Let me show you. So this would be the equivalent of writing margin top 0, margin bottom 0, margin left auto, and margin right auto. So that would result in the same thing. But we are developers and we are usually lazy, and we are happy if there are some shortcuts, some ways to write it a bit shorter. So margin 0 auto is the way to go if you want to center elements independently from other elements. All right, now this margin also has its limitations. What happens, for example, if I want to give my image a certain margin left of, say, 18 and a margin right also of 18. It stops working. And this is because you now specify absolute values and you don't have the wonderful effect of the auto. And one other thing, so this worked because I specified this after this statement. So these styles here are overwriting this. If I would write this later, they would override my margin left and margin right, and my element wouldn't have any margin anymore. So if you have a situation like this and we have some margin set on the element, what can we do to center it anyway? So in this situation, what do? There's another method how you can center things, and this is display flex, the flexbox in CSS. And this works by doing the following. So in our container, I say display flex. Now you can see that here on the right side, my image comes first and then the text, but I want it to be the image on top and then the text, so I change it to flex direction column. So the image gets so wide because it's being stretched about the whole width of the parent div. And this has to do with the align items property. So align items, the default is stretch. So this is what is happening here. The image is stretched to the width. You can see this. If I do this, it gets wider and narrower, just like the same width as the parent div. So what we do here instead is we can try out what other elements are there. So in here we can, for example, say start. And now the image is aligned to the left, which is the start of our text. We don't want this. We want it to be in the center. So instead we can say center. And now my image is centered and the text is not. Now the next question is, this works fine if I use the flex direction column. So if my elements are, if they are like on top of each other. So if I choose flex direction row instead, now the align items does something different. It doesn't center the items horizontally, but it centers it vertically. So you can see this at the image. The image is centered vertically. You can't really see this in this example, and because of that, I will do something on the text. I will say the width of the text is something smaller, like let's say 100 px. Now my text is really narrow, but we can see that it's not centered. So I don't want it to like stick to the image and the image sticks to the left side of the div, but I want everything to be centered. And I can achieve this by doing justify content, center. And now everything is centered. This isn't exactly pretty, but this shows you how centering works. I suggest you play around with the Flexbox options, and there is like a wonderful cheat sheet by CSS Tricks about the Flexbox items. You can look at this and you will understand what align items and justify content do much better, because they have these visual little graphics there that explain it perfectly. I will put the link in the description. So in summary, we have seen 3 methods how to center things in CSS. One was to use text align center for the text. One was to use margin auto on both the left side and the right side. And the last was to use Flexbox styles to center your elements. If you're anything like me, you might forget how this works, how centering in CSS works, but now you have a place to look it up. Also, I put a link down in the description about the blog post that I wrote about the same thing, how to center things in CSS. And you can use this to copy-paste things and look things up in a written form if you don't want to watch a video. If this video was useful for you, sign up for my newsletter and you will get emails about new videos, about blog posts that I make, and some insights into our community at Hamburg Coding School and like things we learn in our coding adventures. We also have a nice Slack community. You can always join with the invitation link that I put down in the description. If you have any more questions, leave it in the comments and I will get back to you. So thanks for watching and see you in the next one.